Well, hey there, my friends. My name is Carpo, and as you know, I'm a YouTuber who talks about things and random stuff. But today I'm going to talk about cameras. Coincidentally, it's the one thing that I use every time I make a video, therefore, a camera to me is very important. I've utilized many different sources, and I'm almost embarrassed to say that I'm using my cell phone right now, as I have been using for the last several months. Now, I have a couple of really nice cameras. I bought them secondhand off Craigslist, but I got a good deal on them. It's a Panasonic GH2, and or maybe GH3 actually. And the difference between that and a GH5 is like $1,000. So I got what I could afford for a couple $100. Well, about a year ago, my wife picked me up something that I'd always wanted, which was a GoPro. Now, this is something that I've always dreamed of having, but never could justify buying. Even though they're only a few $100, I'm not a rich person, and I can rarely justify making a purchase, especially of a little action camera like this. But Christmas of not this last Christmas, but the Christmas before, so a little over a year ago, my wife picked me up a GoPro. And this is a GoPro Hero 7 Black, just to note that. And I don't think that factor really matters. People might say, well, they've come out with the 10 now or whatever, the 100. It doesn't matter what model they're on. The point being that this is only a few years old. And a device like this should work for quite a while, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I am here to complain about it, but I would like to start off by saying I've had many benefits from using this camera. I absolutely adore the stability. I can put this on my chest or on my head. I can do carpentry. I can ride down a trail, do whatever I'm doing, and it is a very, very stable picture. It might not be, I mean, it's crystal clear. It might be a little rounded, but that's what you get when you're getting a wide field of view like you do with the GoPro. I have this set up for a little more farther focal length, but that's another story altogether. I'm here to talk about the faults in these things. And I think it's only fair that I addressed at least the positives I've had. And this thing has lasted me about a year and 2 months. My wife bought it for me. It was used, but it was in perfect condition with the battery and the charger and all this stuff. I bought a couple extra batteries, and I began using it. And 2 days ago, I went to turn it on to do. I've been building guitars, and I have been using it as a way to like really focus in on what I'm doing. And the power button just stopped working. And I knew this was coming. So, as you can see, on the side, there's the power button. And there's a small hole in it. I don't think that affects or changes anything. It's just the fact that I've been using it so much, and every time I push it, it's of course going to wear it down. And I noticed it was getting a little weak. But even from the first day I got it, the power button on the GoPro was always the weakest link. I hate to say it, but it's a tiny little button right here. And you can't even tell the haptic feedback, if you would, the click, it just can't be felt. And it's very difficult. I don't know if this is because of my model, and I want to make this clear that I'm talking about my camera. I don't know any other GoPro Hero 7. I've never used another model or even another one of the same type. But I have noticed that the power button's an issue, and after looking it up, I found out a lot of other people have the same problem. So the power button's very small. Now, if it were larger, say like the play button, I think that maybe it would serve a better purpose. But even then, I have issues with the play button as well. Sometimes it just doesn't push right. It's even harder when it's in a case and you have to reach in and push the power button. So, whatever. The power button's an issue. That can be addressed. The second issue I have is the battery compartment. The SD card and the battery go in the same compartment, meaning that you have to you have to pull the battery out to change an SD card, which is fine. It's not a big deal. The problem is the batteries come with a little tab on them to pull them out. Those tabs are shit. Pardon my language, but they're shit. And the only way to get a battery out of a GoPro, besides probing it with a little poker, is to go. And I think most people who have a GoPro have done that plenty of times. and you pop it like that, and you pull the battery out. Every time you slam the camera, you're weakening the components within. And so a battery should be able to be removed very simply without issue. It should have a click out feature where you push in and it clicks out to make sure that you know you have it out. Once the battery, and that's what happens most of the time, once the battery is out, then you can access the SD card. The problem is if you swap out a battery in a hurry and pop it back in there, sometimes you'll bump the SD card and it pops out, and then you go to hit record and it doesn't work because the SD card got pushed back out. Those are issues that can be dealt with, of course, but I have to point them out. The third thing that I think is a very simple one that they overlooked, which I don't understand why, is the screen itself. It's a screen protector I put on here, right? This little thing. It wouldn't be necessary if GoPro put a simple 1mm rim around the edge of this. Just 1mm rim. So when you set your camera down on its back, it's not going to scratch the screen. This is something that most camera manufacturers are well aware of. But having a fully exposed screen that's just on the edge like this, just like on cell phones, it's just as dumb. When you have a cell phone case, it helps to prevent that. But cell phone manufacturers should do the same thing. They want to have these screens that roll off the edge as if your finger wants to go off the edge of a screen. It doesn't work that way. We want to focus our energy on the center of the screen. That little rim is not going to affect the way we use the camera, but it will definitely affect the lens well, that's the other one, the lens itself. The lens also has no protector. There's no rim around the lens. There's no rim around the actual viewing screen. Therefore, you have to be really careful not to scratch it. If you bump this too close to a concrete wall, you scrape the lens. And that's dumb. That's really dumb. Because all it would take would be 1mm on each side, and that problem would be solved. So, the last thing I want to cover is the heat issue, which has been covered a million times with GoPros. They get hot, and they get hot, really hot, and they can overheat. I don't run mine that long, usually, but when I'm doing something and I forget what I'm doing and I leave the camera on, it will run for a while. So naturally, that's a good thing. There is an 11 and a half minute marker. So here's the thing. If you leave your camera recording for an hour, it will break it up into 11-minute segments. So when you watch it on here, it will show it as one full video. But when you transfer it to your computer, it breaks it up into like 3 different ones. So it'll be like 1024, video 1024, then 2024. They go up by thousands. So they'll add a 1, 2, 3, and each 1,000 mark represents another 11 minutes. It's dumb. And they should just have a way to record as long as you record and transfer that one video in, because that makes it very complicated for people when they're trying to put it on the computer. And maybe I'm just bitching because the thing crapped out on me. And maybe if GoPro feels so kind, they'll send me one of their newer models and I can change my opinion on this. But I know that won't happen. At any rate, I'm going to see if I can get this thing working, and I don't think it's going to ever work again, which is very disappointing considering the price point and how often I've used it. My husky did get a hold of it one time because she was so jealous of how often I used my GoPro that I saw her on the edge of the couch. She had hit this part with her tooth. Mind you, that didn't affect what happened recently because that was like right after I got it. But she broke the front screen, which is my last complaint. This little LCD screen, which is supposed to give you... Now, these are, on the newer models, these are better screens. They're actual screens, I believe. But an LCD screen on the front was really pointless. You can't even see it when you're filming. So, I think that's all the complaints I have about the GoPro. I love my GoPro. This thing was like my favorite go-to camera. But I had to point out the flaws because, you know, with all the props that it has, we need to acknowledge when something has flaws. And hopefully GoPro has addressed these flaws in their newer cameras. I believe in the more recent versions they have updated to I believe they do have a small flange around the lens now, if I'm not mistaken. But I think these are very simple things. As a guy who, tries to build, create, and design things in my own life, I know when something is just stupid. And GoPro has its own problems, but it's an innovator in the field. This was something that most of us would dream of. Back when I was a skater in the 90s, 80s, I would fucking kill for something like this. This would have totally changed the game. All of it, the one guy running around with a big ass VHS camcorder trying to film everybody skating. This thing is just amazing. So for me to sit and complain about, oh, it needs a flange, and oh, the battery has an issue with getting it out, those seem like small complaints, but they are real complaints because you're paying hundreds of dollars for a product and you want it to work right. So hopefully enough complaints get to the right people and they fix their shit and we can move on with better products in the future. That's all I got. Thanks for listening. This is one of my rare reviews on stuff, only because I'm feeling motivated because it ain't working for me anymore. And I'm debating whether to buy another GoPro or get something else. I don't know yet. We'll see. Thanks for watching. Cell phones do a pretty good job these days. It's kind of hard to beat that. But at any rate, talk to y'all next time. Peace out.